Hi guys, my name is Noah Callan. I recently turned 25 years old. I am the AAC and Technology Coordinator at Kids Plus, a children's therapy hub in Geelong. My work includes the delivery of augmentative and alternative communication-related professional development training, including workshops, conferences for users, family members and carers, and allied health professionals. One example is our AAC Connect program, which provides opportunities for people to advance their knowledge of AAC implementation to better support communication and foster more engaging and effective interactions for parents and their children. I should also mention that I do some work for Get Skilled Access, which Dylan started. Get Skilled Access is all about encouraging a more inclusive environment for people with disabilities and educating people on how to interact and support someone with a disability, especially in professional settings and when accessing public facilities. I have been involved in both consultation sessions and auditing reviews with ANZ and Tennis Australia. Most importantly, helping those clients realize and understand that although I'm nonverbal, I have plenty to say, especially in relation to inclusion and access for nonverbal and those of us who have quadriplegia.
All right, well, that's the end of our episode. You don't need to hear anything else because that's the best intro we've ever had, I reckon.
Oh, good one, Noah. He's very happy with himself.
Look at
as
him.
well.
He is smiling. He goes, he's going to himself. I nailed that. I absolutely nailed that.
Noah, welcome to the podcast. So we should point out that all of the questions have been sent to Noah in advance from Dylan and myself. And so Noah has the ability to load the answers onto his machine, the AAC communication device. So we will, though, have a question that Noah doesn't know coming up where you'll be able to see the length it takes in real time for Noah to answer conversations. So let's kick off with the second question.
Yeah, what is your disability, Noah?
My disability is attetoid cerebral palsy. I was born with it due to a lack of oxygen to the brain, which killed my ability to walk, talk, and support myself. With my condition, I'm nonverbal and obviously physically disabled. I rely on someone to help me from the moment I open my eyes in the morning. I need assistance getting in my chair, dressing, feeding and drinking, brushing teeth, showering, and toileting. It's pretty daunting to trust someone to assist me with all of this every bloody day for the rest of my life. Also, when I meet new people or carers, or I am in stressful environments, my muscle tone tenses and my legs start to shake uncontrollably. It's like when a dog is waiting for you to get home at the end of the day and he or she is so excited and overstimulated, its tail starts wagging like crazy. It's like that, and it's an involuntary movement. Otherwise, I am the same as everyone else. I'm funny, smart, have a good sense of humour, and an all-round good bloke. Some of my friends and family think I speak too much shit. Oh well, I guess everyone is entitled to their own opinion.
Co-workers as well, including you're like, mate, I love how honest you are about your disability, and we'll get to it in a minute. But one thing that you just said so well is often when people see people with high-level disabilities that are non-verbal, they assume that intellectually they're also affected. But one thing I do love about you is how well-spoken you are, right? And someone might say well-spoken, but he can't speak. But it's not about that. It's about the best way that you can find out on how to communicate.
Well, also it's interesting with communication as well. I mean, I communicate with my partner without speaking. I mean, we know each other's body language. We have our own sort of signals in the house. I can look at her with an eye and she knows exactly what I'm talking about. And so it's really important to know that, you know, it doesn't have to be verbal to be communication.
Yeah, like just then, as we said that, Noah was smiling and nodding because he agreed. But we've got to talk about this device that you are communicating with us today. Like, can you tell us a bit about it?
I'm using a GridPad 12 with the access method of eye gaze, an augmentative and alternative communication device. That means when I look at a letter, it magically selects it and enables me to write my message.
Sick.
The computerized voice then speaks it out. It's similar to what Stephen Hawking used to communicate with people. He used his finger to control a computer and a voice synthesizer. But once he lost the use of his hands, he started depending on twitching using his cheek muscle to communicate. Unfortunately, I am not as smart as him. Using this device does give me a voice, but does come with its challenges. One of the biggest challenges that I have come across is people often want to touch or lean on their device when they are hanging with me and talking to me. I know that they don't mean to cause any problems by doing this, but it is not a good idea. It's a part of my identity and the person needs to realize that it's like touching me without any warning. Please respect me and the device. And trust me, I let them know using my device and it's all good. They could damage the device, cause it to come off the mount and fall, and it is also a bit of an invasion of my personal space. The second challenge is that when I go into a different room, I sometimes need to recalibrate the device. This is because the lighting of the environment can vary from room to room. Light can affect the size of a person's pupils, as you know, which in turn affects how the eye gaze reads my eyes. If it is not right, the system won't read or reads inaccurately. This can be really annoying.
I remember when this happened to us once, well, you, but I was there. We met the treasurer, Josh Frydenberg, about something that we were doing at GSA. Remember on the tennis courts, and we went from inside to outside. So it obviously changes the way the light affected the machine, which I'd never thought of, man. Yeah, because we'd caught up mostly in settings where it was a bit more controlled, say indoors, in boardrooms or whatever. So again, something that I learned that day as well. I was like, that is a pain in the ass when you have to recalibrate when you go into different areas with different lights.
Need to get that Apple Mac mode where it goes from night to day. Need to get that going on the new calibration.
Just someone umbrella on top. I don't know. We'll figure something out.
Noah, we pre-sent you these questions ahead of time. Does that mean obviously that you can load your answers into the computer?
First, I write my answers on a Microsoft Word document, and I then open up my AAC software package called Grid 3 to make a grid set, which is like an app on your phone, but it's a pre-stored communication page. Then, I create buttons to speak my message like this one.
Love that.
So how long does it take then for you to, say, get a question and then be able to answer it?
Depending on the question, it might take anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes. Obviously, today I have prepared most of my answers to speed things up given it is a podcast. But should we have a go now? Getting used to the uncomfortable silence and dealing with it appropriately is the key to communicating with an AAC user.
So I'll ask it. Noah, do you prefer the term non-verbal or non-speaking? got to say, it's very cool watching Noah do this live because you can see his eyes darting around the screen to type out what he wants to say to us. And you really see it in action at one, how amazing the technology is, but how hard Noah's got to work to be able to communicate with us.
Also, of course, there's a podcast, but this will be online. You'll see it on our Instagram and on our YouTube as well, so you can see this in real time to see exactly what Dylan was talking about.
And you can see how much it would suck for Noah when people do get frustrated and think, why this guy is not answering what I'm asking him, even though he's actually really working really hard to be inclusive and feel included and communicate.
Yeah, there'd have to be people who think you're being rude.
I mean, I've seen him. He can be rude sometimes, but he's definitely not being rude. He like that too.
I think it's important as well to leave this as is, so we're not editing this answer, everyone. So you're listening to this in the real time that Dylan and I are getting the answer to our question.
I prefer nonverbal because I can speak a little bit like yes, no, etc., but I like this term.
Nonverbal.
Good man. I like that.
There you go. Now we get to go to the preloaded questions again.
No, but thanks for being vulnerable with us, man, and letting us do that, because a lot of people maybe would not have taken that opportunity to do that because they didn't want to be seen as being a pain in the ass or whatever it is, but you're not, first and foremost. Then, I mean, you're good. You're always authentically you, which I love about you. So we appreciate you being upfront and honest.
This is one of my favorite questions that we're going to ask you for this podcast, and it's one that I'm desperate to know the answer for. Did you choose the voice? Noah, is there a market for celebrities to add their voices so you could be Morgan Freeman one day and Chris Hemsworth the next, or even Meryl Streep?
Or even Dylan Alcott? That'd be pretty cool.
Not so much.
Yes, I chose my voice. Unfortunately, there isn't a market yet for celebrities to convert their voice into AAC's format. In saying that, recently, someone picked a person's voice they wanted and programmed it to communicate with people using the AAC system. So, the technology is there, but the celebrities would have to agree to it. Otherwise, yes, I would love to have Morgan Freeman's voice, not just because I want his voice, which I do. I really do. But if I had his voice, I would immediately get voiceover jobs as Morgan. Think of the money I could make.
Very good. Wouldn't need to work at GSA anymore, put it that much. Now, before this technology, right, was there other ways that you were able to communicate without the computer? For example, Sam got in touch with us, who is deaf. We got in touch via Instagram and asked, was there a point where Auslan or sign language was an option for you?
Unfortunately, it wasn't an option for me because my CP doesn't allow my hands to work for signing. I don't have the dexterity, so it would be challenging for me to use sign language. But that doesn't mean that I don't want to learn it.
I think there's a congratulations in order.
Huge congratulations.
Because you just became a homeowner. Look at you, you big dog. I love that. Now, what accessible features were needed when finding your first forever home?
First of all, it needs to be one level because obviously I can't go upstairs.
Me too.
We're doing SDA to get funding to renovate the bathroom and make it accessible, and put in a slinging hoist so that it's easier for transfers. Also, a ramp to get into the house. I'm going to be able to open the front door with my phone via HomeKit. It's just accessibility stuff mainly. It was really hard to find a workable house without having to make some revisions so it is more accessible. You can't find a perfect house right out of the bag.
So for people that don't fully understand why the NDIS is awesome, there's a perfect example, right? Ask yourself what you need as a non-disabled person to go to your house. Not much. What the NDIS does is make it equitable for us, people with disabilities, so we have the same fair opportunities as you do to live in a house like that. Noah's got to do all these things to his house in order to make it accessible for him to live in, of which he shouldn't have to pay for just because he's disabled. That's the whole point of the scheme. And it shows the importance of it, because otherwise Noah's 200 grand in debt compared to someone who is non-disabled to be able to live in the home. So it gives a bit of an example about why that's important.
Perfect. Noah, Dylan has spoken on this podcast about his issues getting his wheelchair on and off a plane. For people who maybe aren't watching this online, your wheelchair is very different to Dylan's. Dylan can chuck his on the front seat of his car, get in and out as he's driving. Yours being an electric wheelchair obviously weighs hundreds of kilos. What's the difference in airline travel for you?
Yes, there are considerable challenges around this, not just for me but for many people with disabilities and their families. Needless to say, living with a disability in day-to-day life is difficult, and traveling can be very stressful. When I was little, my family and I used to live in Japan, and my dad would carry me to the plane to get me on. We loved going back to Australia for the holidays to see our family. I was easy to handle back then as I was just a little kid. I am now 25 years old, and I am in an electric wheelchair, which is purposely made to support me and my physical needs so that I am comfortable and, most importantly, safe. This is because I have cerebral palsy, quadriplegia, and it should be duly noted that I cannot support any of my body. What does this mean in relation to me traveling on an aeroplane? I cannot use a regular wheelchair, you know, the one that airlines offer people to be transported to the plane. I need to stay in my motorized wheelchair until the last possible moment. In the past, I have been made to wheel myself onto the tarmac, which is not ideal, and then be lifted from my chair to the hydraulic lift. I am slight in build but reasonably tall, and the only way I have been allowed to board the plane was to be raised by hydraulic lift to the cabin door whilst my carer precariously supported me. Only one carer was allowed on the lift, accompanied by an employee who does not help hold me. This is both an OH and S issue for the person lifting me, and also dangerous for me as my body weight should not be lifted by only one person as I am too heavy, not to mention how undignified this is. Then, the carer that is holding me is to continue to carry me to my designated seat, which is sometimes a fair way down the plane. This is also awkward and dangerous. The staff have to then pack my chair into a container, which raises another problem. My chair is 1170 millimeters in height, with the headrest taken off, and weighs approximately 150 kilos. Many airline containers don't even have the capacity to hold my chair. Certainly in regards to domestic travel, although it should be a basic human right to travel on a plane, and one that should be both safe and dignified, in the year 2022 it is not, and there are still many improvements to be made. It's really frustrating. I didn't get to join my extended family for Christmas in Tasmania a few years ago because no airline could accommodate my wheelchair to go to Hobart. I have created a petition about this issue and had over 48,000 people signing it. If you like to sign it, the link is change.org/getmywheelsintheair. I am hoping eventually that laws may change in relation to travelling on a plane in an electric wheelchair, and that one day I may be able to sit in my own chair on an aeroplane similar to what is currently allowed in a vehicle. I know that America is considering such options, and hopefully other countries will follow. Aside from that, we hear some horror stories about wheelchairs being damaged in transit. The challenge is getting airlines to take care of wheelchairs when being packed away. They need to understand that in many cases wheelchairs are fitted for the individual, and if someone's chair gets damaged in transit and they can't use it when they reach their destination, this can be both debilitating and stressful. You can't just go to a shop and get a replacement. A person's holiday or work commitments could also be totally ruined. A person's wheelchair is like oxygen.